Welcome back to the Brahmin Word. And I was off last week taking some vacation time, but I am glad to be back and glad to be back in the Sermon on the Mount with you all. And today we're going to look at a section that is not very big at all, but very, very important still. So go to Matthew chapter 6. We're going to be looking at verses 1 through 4. Matthew chapter 6, verses 1 through 4. And there's two parts of this. It's about giving to those that are needy, but it's also about how we serve as well. And so let's dive right in. Chapter 6, verse 1. Beware practicing your righteousness before other people in order to be seen by them, for then you will have no reward from your Father who is in heaven. Thus, when you give to the needy, sound no trumpet before you, as the hypocrites do in the synagogues and in the streets, that they may be praised by others. Truly, I say to you, they have received their reward. So we'll stop right there. Jesus is basically giving you a couple things here. Should we give to those that are needy? Yes, absolutely. Verse 2 is not thus if you give to the needy, it's when you give to the needy. So that is very, very important to look out for those that are needing help in life. And that may not just be monetarily, by the way. A lot of the times it is, but that's not the case here. I think it's more or less just helping those that need a helping hand in any way, shape, or form. So I think that is what we're supposed to see in verses 1 and 2 when it comes to helping those that are needy. The other part, though, is how we serve. So Jesus is really making it clear that we are supposed to serve in a humble manner. We are not supposed to draw attention to ourselves as the person that is providing aid or providing help or serving. We are not supposed to be drawing attention to ourselves because it would very much negate the act of service itself. Serving is supposed to put others before yourself. It's supposed to put their needs before yours. It's supposed to be a practical example and a practical action to develop and to work on humility. And so I think that is really what we're supposed to see here in verses 1 and 2 when it comes to how we are to serve. And it makes a lot of sense, too, why Jesus is calling out the religious leaders of that time. Verse 2, as the hypocrites do in the synagogues and in the streets. And then later on, he will continue to connect that to the religious leaders of his day. Doesn't mean that all religious leaders were doing bad or were focused more on how they looked to others. However, this was a very big problem back in that day. And guess what? It still is today. When you and I serve, we should not be focused on, oh, is somebody going to be watching how I serve? What are other people going to think about about what I'm doing, when I'm doing it, how much I'm doing when I serve? And so Jesus really wants us to be aware of that and to avoid that line of thinking. Instead, just to serve. And that's where he goes next, verse 3. But when you give to the needy, do not let your left hand know what your right hand is doing, so that your giving may be in secret, and your Father who sees in secret will reward you. Verse 3 with the whole left hand not knowing what your right hand is doing. It's not the actual, it's not supposed to be taken literally, where if you do something with your left hand in a serving manner, like let's say you give out a piece of clothing, you're supposed to keep your right hand behind your back, and so your right hand doesn't see what your left hand is doing. No, that's not what that means at all. It's not supposed to be taken in that way. What it is supposed to be taken as, though, is that you should serve in a very humble manner. It should not be for show. It should not be for your credit. It should be only for the fact of wanting to serve someone else, and also wanting to serve because your Father in heaven has called you to serve, which is why he makes it very, very important. He connects that idea of humility to the Father seeing in secret. The idea of seeing in secret there is just that, humility. God will see every single action you do, whether it is behind the scenes and nobody else can see it, but your Father can, or it's in front of everybody where everybody can see it and your Father can see it too. Everything that you see, that you say, that you do, your Father in heaven, God, sees all of that. And he absolutely makes note of all of those things. Now, does that mean that when you and I get tripped up in pride when we serve, that we are no longer able to serve? No, absolutely not. First off, there is definitely forgiveness involved when it comes to pride. But really, serving others is a great way for you to work on avoiding pride in the first place, if you go about it in the right mindset, which Jesus sets forward here in Matthew chapter 6, verses 1 through 4. A wonderful, short, little lesson and encouragement and reminder, but something that I think is really, really important, not just to give to those that are needy, to serve those that are needy, but to serve with the mindset and heart of humility behind it. Making sure that you serve others, and also making sure that the only person that that truly sees what you do is God alone. So, with that being said, we are heading on Thursday, not to the Lord's Prayer, because we've already done a video on the Lord's Prayer, but instead we are going to go to Matthew 6, 14, and 15, and just look at those two verses when it comes to forgiveness. And so that is where we will be headed on Thursday with the Broadman Word. I'm so excited to be back with you as we continue to walk through the Sermon on the Mount. I will see you on Thursday. Thanks.